When I said no, my doubt and demons on their way. Every endeavor I have made ever is coming into play, is here and now today.
Yes, my friends, and we are in this moment. Thank you so much for being here. This is Coach Raja. I appreciate all of you. You're going to ring the victory bell for being here and being so amazing. And you know who else is so amazing? My next guest. Yes, the amazing Kyoshi Adam McCauley is a 7th degree black belt with over 40 years of martial arts experience and 32 years as the owner of Gono Sen Karate, with locations in Peekskill, Yorktown, and satellite programs across Upper Westchester, New York. Raised in Mount Vernon, he holds an associate degree in graphic design with honors and a PhD in martial arts sciences. A Hall of Fame inductee and lifetime achievement recipient, he's a certified bodyguard and author of "It's Great to Be Me" and the book "The One Fight You Don't Want to Lose." He's been married for 18 years and a proud stepfather and a grandfather. And guess what? He also walked uphill to school both ways in the snow, barefoot, the one, the only Kyoshi Adam McCauley. Welcome, Adam. How are you doing today, sir?
Very well, Raja. Thank you for having me. I'm honored and proud to be here.
It's my pleasure. And if you want to have more pleasure, make sure you click the link down below so that way you can comment on the live. So let's just dive right in. We have a lot of fun things to talk about now. You and I are both old martial arts lions, and I would say like we're still young in our prime because we were just talking earlier about how in the martial arts you don't really ever stop. You kind of keep on going. You know, and I've been in it for 41 years. I think you also been across the 4 decades as well. And I love that because we've seen the industry change. So, tell us a little bit more about like at its inception, what were you like growing up and how did the martial arts shape and change your path?
Very good question. So my story dates back to 1984, and
Yeah.
I was basically one of those Karate Kid
Same year.
right?
I watched the movie. That's when I signed up.
That was my story, right? And so many people around the world did. And I think it's because of the similarities between just having this bullying challenge, whether it's verbal, intentional, physical, all that. So mine dates back to then. And, I needed to find my Mr. Miyagi because growing up, it's funny because as a youngster, I felt very confident. I felt like I can do anything. And then at school, school kind of destroys that. It chisels away at that. And I had a great support system at home. But when you're, I was an inner city Mount Vernon school, public school student, and it was tough going through those years. And saving my lunch money to take cabs and taxis home from school and not doing after school sports. That was, one of the deal breakers where I said, I have to do something. And when I went into my martial arts school for the first time, Richardson's Shotokai Khan in Mount Vernon. Some of you may know it. He was a very pioneer at the time, and he just changed my life. I sat down with him, and since the minute he said hello, he had me. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and I had the same. I explained in my TED talk where I talked about how my mom basically didn't want me to take karate because she was afraid of me getting hurt, and my dad signed me up for a year. Boom. So I was so happy to start that journey. So now, over your past 30 years of teaching, what's been the most common pattern you've noticed in children that parents should be aware of?
Great question. So if I can bring a time machine to now, back then It was the bullying and the lack of self-confidence. 40 years later, it's the same stinking thinking, lack of confidence.
It is. Yeah.
And that's the one thing that doesn't change. In today's socially distracted world, it's even challenging, more challenging, and kids just can't get away from it. So whereas I would take a cab home and get away from the bullies, you can't get away from the bullies because they're saying things on social media, and before you know it, news travels so fast, and bad news travels faster than good, that basically, even if things are lies or anything and teasing, it just goes right to the person's heart, and it just chisels away at their confidence. So back to your question, I think the number one thing that kids need to build up is a yes I can attitude. I can get through this, I will do this. And
All that.
that's hard. It's hard because parents are so time starved, they don't have the tools. They just they it's funny because most of the time, dads, the way they want their kid to deal with bullies is to beat them up, fight them. Moms want them to walk away. But at the end of the day, kids just want to have fun. So how do you do that? Because kids are always saying it's okay when things bad happen. They tell the kid it's okay, and they're never challenged to say it's not okay.
No.
Thank you for apologizing, but don't do it again. That builds resilience. So I think that, back to your question, I think that's what is at the underlying reason, maybe not why all kids join, but I think that's why all kids stay.
Right. Nice. I love that. Beautiful pearls of wisdom there. So now we've seen in all different kinds of martial arts schools, it doesn't matter which one to go to, whether it's a Shotokan school, an Okinawan school, it's a jiu-jitsu school, there are belts. Right. So how does earning belts and achieving goals in martial arts actually help build a child's mindset and their character?
So belts, in one way, are a barometer for them, for the parents, and for the instructors to know where that student is in their skill sets, how they're doing, how they're progressing, and how they're not. Back in the olden days, there were no belts, right? It was teacher, student, you just do what I say, and as you progress, you'll get better. And then there's the whole idea, the mythology about, when your belt is white and you go and you keep training, it gets dirtier and dirtier, right? And that's how it gets darker. But basically, the belt system was put in there to kind of help all those three things, the parent, the student, and the instructor, know where that student is, how to challenge them better, how to watch and use as a barometer, say, okay, you're not where you need to be, let's fix it. But here's the deeper idea of the belts. When you see, confidence is built only through achievement. And achievement is only built through competence and doing something over and over again. So it's sad because repetition is the mother of all skills. So you have to repeat the motions to get better, to feel competent, to then build confidence. So the parents who are saying, "Oh, great job on the first try," it's actually hurting them because it's not a job.
I agree there.
Give it your best, but let's get better. So the belts are there for that reason. And when a student gets a belt, then they feel like, okay, I did something well. I might not be great in everything, but I did enough to inch my way up. And then ultimately, when you get a black belt, and in our school, it takes a long time to get a black belt. It's not the 24 months to black belt. It's more like 6 years to 8 years. And people stay because they feel like they're gaining something, and through the belt systems, and some of our students wait a year before a belt upgrade, and that's insane. Most schools, it's every 4 to 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. So it's a little bit more challenging, but I'm proud to say, like, even this next month, May 3rd, we have 15 students going for black belt, and those were COVID students.
Gotcha. Nice.
The ones that made it through COVID. So on average, we do very well with our promotions. We have anywhere from 15 to 25 students going for black belt, and I just give it up to these kids because they stay for such an internalized reason, and we're shaping their lives. We're so helpful.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And you and I both know that, as with anything, what you put into it is what you get out of it. And we are shaping the future young minds, and I love watching that growth. I think my favorite part of the martial arts is it used to be when I was younger, it was all about competition and winning grand championships. That phase is over. I don't care. I love watching the students when they click, when the light bulb turns on, and say, "Oh, I can do it," and then all of a sudden they have that moment, that epiphany, that wow, maybe I could be a black belt, maybe I could be great, maybe I could be something more than what I am, and that's that moment that we live for. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's funny though because like if you watch the Karate Kid
Yeah,
back then from 1984, and then you see the transformation to Cobra Kai. So now Daniel-san becomes the teacher. So that movie and that series mimics my life so well. And it's funny because one of my black belts was
yeah.
actually in the commercial for Cobra Kai, which is really cool. But it's like such a full circle because those times that you were doing the tournament scenes and winning the championships, that was a peg that needed to be put in. It's like me. I did the same thing
Yeah,
because I was so lacking in confidence. I
exactly.
needed to
I
show
needed proof
people.
for
I
myself.
needed to prove it, right?
Yeah,
And first
exactly.
you try to prove it to others. Then
Yep.
when you develop that ability and you go and you get the grand champions like I've done in all those years, then it's like, oh, it's like it's not so important anymore. It's
It's
like
like,
I get
yeah, that's
money,
nice.
right?
Been there, done that.
It's like, yeah, it's like if you have money, I'm not going to buy a Timex. I'm going to buy a Rolex. So it's just depends on where you are in your life. But I think, and this is why we do school tournaments. I
Yeah.
think it's important for students to go through that because there's been so many times where they're like, I'm not going to do it. I'm too nervous. And I'm like, your skill set is there. Do it. I promise you. And then they end up winning first place. And then they're
Yeah.
like, I'm so glad you forced me to do it. And this is where it's important for parents to is especially understand you've been there before. You know the long term
Yeah.
outcome. Don't just settle for them saying, I don't want to. I'm scared.
Absolutely. And I recall one of my 13-year-old students, she was originally in gymnastics. She was taking a break from that. She joined karate and she loved what we were doing and what I was teaching. And I remember encouraging her to go to her first tournament. She was scared. She's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I said, listen, you don't know until you try. She went to her first tournament and she took home a first and a second. And her parents were ecstatic. And all of a sudden you saw her countenance, like I just said, like those are the moments I live for. When you
Yeah.
see them change, they say, "Oh, I can do something. I can be more," and it made such a difference. So this ties in well because I want to share also. You have a most recent book that you wanted to share with us, and I would love to share everybody. Please tell us your book name and where they can grab it.
So it's on Amazon.
Hmm.
And it is the one fight you don't want to lose, proven
Yeah.
martial arts principles for raising successful and productive kids. Now, why is this book or why did I write this book is because I've been teaching for so many years. I
Hmm.
wanted to instill and pass on, maybe a passage in the martial arts and then how it pertains to today's modern world. And
Right.
to your point of the tournament, back in the day, my teacher said, "Oh, there's a tournament. You want to go?" I said, "No." He says, "You're going." And I did that for 5 times, and I lost every single one.
Hmm.
And then the sixth one, when he says you're going, I won first place, and I just kept winning after that. So it's like if I would have given up because of those other 5 losses, I would never have gotten to success. And this is
Yeah.
what's challenging nowadays because as teachers, parents, coaches, we're like, oh, well, we don't want to force you, or we don't want you to deal with that pain or that sadness or that hurt, but yet
Hmm.
it doesn't serve us. It actually handicaps us. So it doesn't give us that resiliency to get through things like 9/11, the housing crisis, COVID, which from the business sense were
Right.
three very, very challenging things to get through. And
Definitely.
adversity is just another enemy. So we have to get through it. So to your point, the book kind of ties it all together with principles of the martial arts, how you can apply them to today's modern world with your child, being the best parent you can be, understanding these from a different perspective. There's no such thing as
Mhm.
bad parenting. I'm a baby of 5, and my mom always said I was never born with a handbook. So me and my twin brother are totally different. So every child is unique and different. So I think the more we can learn, the better. And I guess this is one of the handbooks my parents would have loved to have.
Oh, it's fantastic. And every parent needs some sort of handbook. Like when my school was open, I used to hand out like a booklet that I had for every parent and student. It was, how to build self-esteem in children. And it was more about showing them what is the difference between self-esteem versus confidence, comparing the internal versus the external. And that opened up a lot of eyes. So there is Adam's book right there. The One Fight You Don't Want to Lose. It's found on Amazon. Now, if you're in the New York area around where he is, then please reach out to him. He'll definitely sign the book for you. And guess what? I twisted his arm a little bit. He'll also give you a free class. Okay, so
Yeah,
tell him I sent you.
without a doubt. Even if you're a martial artist and you just want to learn something different, please come on by. I love to chat with
Oh,
you.
I'll come up sometime. Like we'll have to hang out sometime and just talk shop and have some fun together. All right. Okay, folks, we're going to shift gears a little bit to our next section here. This is what I call the speed dating round. Love to hear more about. We know about you as the martial artist. We want to know more about you as a person because people join a person, not a business. So let's get to know you, man. So where did you grow up and how did you grow up?
So I grew up in Mount Vernon. I'm a baby of 5, and Mount Vernon is a lower part of Westchester County, New York.
Yep.
And it was the place to live when my parents moved there, and we just were all in, I think, a 3-bedroom house. So we all got shoved in there with 4 dogs, and I never felt deprived. Although my parents didn't have a lot growing up, I never felt deprived. When you have, I guess, so many siblings, you're always doing things. And back then, my parents would be like, my mom would be like, here's a quarter, call me if you need me, and come home before dark. So there was a lot of that, Stand By Me, if you ever watched that.
I remember, I love that movie.
There's a lot of that going on in my life, which was great. My best friend, Michael, and we would hang out and we would just roam the town, and it was just, we actually went up railroad tracks, abandoned railroad tracks. So many similarities to that. But, back then, now as an adult, I go, what my parents thought? Were they crazy?
I know. It's okay. We did the same thing as children too. Like my friends and I, we rode bicycles and we just would randomly go to different places and we would ride our bikes for miles, find places in the woods to find jumps, or we'd go out to someplace cool or the back of the movie theater and just hang out and just find weird things and meet people. And it was a lot of fun.
I think I built a go-kart. I built a mini golf in my backyard. I swung like Tarzan from trees from my
we did that too.
It was just like I built the clubhouses, the tree houses, like
all the good stuff, right?
And you wonder, like, how could we help kids do that differently now? And I look back and part of me goes, what my parents, were they crazy? And then I go, okay, well, we're in a different world now. So definitely that was
the hard part is
fun.
And as you know, social media gives everybody that dopamine boost. We have to turn up the real life, which is hard to do by comparison. And so they have to kind of, by extension, find something positive to do out in the real world. And that's why I love the martial arts. I think everybody should be part of a martial art. It resets your reality and gets you back to something of a broader foundation. So tell me a little bit more about, growing up, was there any book or was any movie that inspired you to kind of become who you are?
I loved books that had a great purpose, like Mice and Men. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Old Yeller. These are like classics. Back then it was just like, oh, what's the purpose? And then all the way through to some really even morbid things like Edgar Allan Poe and things that made you think outside the box and go, okay, well, that's important. And when I was born, I had a severe challenge. I almost didn't live, and my mom, the doctor said, because I had some allergic reactions and things like that, I would never pass 4th grade reading level. And my mom would teach me my alphabet on my back. So she would write the letters on my back. And So I struggled going through school. It was not an easy thing. So I remember getting D's and F's. And I remember back in the day, you used to have to get your report card signed by your parent, and then
I
you would
remember that.
remember
Then
remember
they
those
returned it.
days,
Yeah.
pre-emails and Google Docs and stuff. But so I remember my mom, I got an F on one, and then
Yeah.
the next semester I got a D, and she wrote in these big letters. The teacher wrote, "Adam should have done better," and my mom took it, and this is how smart my mom was.
Hmm.
She took a big red pen, crossed it out, and wrote, "He did," because I went from an F to a D.
Hmm.
So my mom was looking at the positive, the incremental
Exactly.
improvements where the teacher was like, he should have done better, not realizing that I did.
Yeah.
So, teachers can make or break things, I'm telling you.
Oh, I know. I know. I mentioned before, like when I was in second grade, because my speech was so bad at that time, I was getting into 30-second blocks and I could barely talk. My second grade teacher, when I was 7 years old, told the class and told the guidance counselors that I was mentally retarded, and they put me into a special education for years. Realizing later on, when my grades shot up to the top of my class and all four classrooms in my grade, then I got into the gifted program. This They learned their mistake late, and so
Flipped it over.
fight. If you feel boxed in, I always tell people, like, fight it, because if you feel like you don't belong, you probably don't. You probably need to go someplace else, a better location where you are more valued and respected. And it goes for all of us. So what is your favorite kind of music? What do you love to jam to?
Oh, music is interesting. I love the 80s. The
Yeah,
80s. That was my
I
era.
started listening to music too.
Going to the disco with the wristband and the baggy khaki short pants and stuff. It was just crazy time. So every time I hear that music, it just brings me back to it. And it's just funny because yesterday, me and my wife were playing cards, and I was like,
Huh?
"Oh, did you know it was the 40th anniversary of the Breakfast Club?" I was like, "Let's play that song,"
Oh
and
my
that
God, yeah.
that song was amazing. And then we're sitting back on 40 years. I remember that movie as if it was yesterday.
Yeah, they were just talking about today on Facebook somewhere, hits that were 40 years old, like Huey, Huey Lewis in the News, The Power of Love. What else? Something from Prince, and then there was something, I don't know, all these amazing hits. I'm like, oh my God, that's 40 years old. It's incredible how these songs have still stood the test of time.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to move forward a little bit. So the one more question we're gonna have, and then we're gonna shift gears a little bit. What is your favorite food? I always find this a fun question.
You know, my favorite food, I mean, I love the quick pizza, but then again,
Yeah.
I'm celiac, so I have to be gluten free,
Oh,
defeat the wheat.
okay.
So it's not the same having pizza. So I like pastas. My wife makes an amazing eggplant parmesan. So that is one of my
Mm.
favorites. I love steak, and everyday steak is good. So, but I would say probably a nice dish of baked ziti with
Hmm.
eggplant would be the best.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Yeah. And my wife's a great cook, but I'm right here on the phone with hello, Magianos. Yeah. I have a special VIP guest in our green room. Like, I'd love for you to bring a palette of your best Italian food. Thanks. All right. Totally real call. Adam, before we shift to our next segment, what's a fun fact about you that you want everybody to know?
A fun fact. Well, I'm a baby of five, and I'm a twin. And me and my
Wow.
twin brother were born on Halloween.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
And my parents'
great.
name is Trick and Treat.
Oh, God. That's
I
funny.
tell people I would have been the treat. My wife disagrees.
All right. Adam, thank you so much. You've been an amazing guest. I'm going to give you the victory bell. And also, don't forget to grab his book link down below. There it is. The one fight that you don't want to lose. We're going to bring him right back. So we're going to send you to the green room with all the food. Please try to save me some. And we'll see you shortly. All right, folks. So while he is enjoying that amazing food, man, I'm getting hungry now, too. I want to ask you, as we go through life. Are you becoming the best version of you? If not, here's a way that we can do that. Make sure that you join us on our 60-second mind shift.
When you throw a rock into a lake, what happens? No, there's a splash. You make an impact, and then you get waves. And then you don't know where those waves are going. Those waves are going past around the reeds, and you don't know where that impact is. So all of you out there, when you're on stage, you don't know where your impact is going to end. It's never going to end.
All right, folks. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what Kyoshi Adam McCauley was talking about building up confidence in children. Now, I'd love to get back to that and talk about what is the difference between self-esteem and confidence. So think about it this way. There's a lion that is looking in the mirror. The outside of the lion, powerful, strong, roar, you hear the roar. That is the confidence that the lion exudes. But as with children, sometimes what we show on the outside is not what we feel on the inside. So when the lion looks into the mirror, his reflection shows a small kitty cat. So you have this big, strong lion, outward, beautiful confidence, but you have this low self-esteem inside. And I know what that feels like because I've been there too. And all of us, if you feel that way, it's very important for us to have what's called an internal locus of control versus an external locus of control. This is what psychologists call where you want to be valued. Now, people that have an external locus of control, they're looking for external reward, external praise, approval, and they end up doing things and making bad choices because they want other people, they start people pleasing. And if you people please for too long, guess what? People stop respecting you, right? Versus when you have an internal locus of control, what you're doing is for yourself, your self-growth. And your self-growth, being the best person that you are, is what the world actually needs. And sometimes we feel that's selfish, but it's not. That's why on planes, they always say, put on your own oxygen mask first, because only then when you are at your best can you help others. It's not selfish to be strong and take care of your body, your mind, your spirit, your health first, so that you can become the best version of you and go help others. And maybe that self-esteem could turn into that high self-esteem and high confidence moving forward. So let's bring back our amazing guest and let's see if he saved me any food. Welcome back, sir. So Adam, how was the food?
Oh, it was delicious. It was very tasty. Thank you for
Good. Is there anything left?
serving me. Oh no, what are you kidding?
No. That's okay. All right, no problem. So tell me, Adam, what do you think about that difference between self-esteem and confidence, and what would you add to it?
I think that was beautifully said. You know, sometimes we put on this, imposter syndrome, right? And I think it's important that I try to challenge people to think about it in terms of self-protection and self-defense. So there is a difference. People say, well, self-protection and self-defense are the same. I disagree. And here's why. Think about it like an analogy of wearing a seatbelt. So a seatbelt is self-protection. It is an action. Self-defense is a reaction. So I'm swerving not to hit said object. So if we can look at it the same as self-esteem as an action, internalizing and figuring things out for ourselves, because who do we hear the most in the world? Ourselves, because we talk the most to ourselves. So we have that stinking thinking, that's where it chisels away at our confidence, which is what we portray outside. So that outside is basically the self-defense. So confidence is self-defense, and self-protection is more the self-esteem, in my opinion.
Gotcha. I love that. Thank you so much, Adam. That's been amazing. So for those that are watching on the live, you thrive, and on the replay, you get to play again. You get the victory bell. Give us some likes, give us some thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. It is at Vaidya Speaker. And let's share his link one more time. Make sure you don't miss it. There is the book there, The One Fight That You Don't Want to Lose. It'll be in the show notes or in the banners down below. And so, Adam, we're at the end of our time. I want to ask you one last question. If somebody gave you a blank check, what would be your grand vision to change the world?
So I know that you couldn't give me a blank check to erase everything that martial arts has done for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the world that you need to do two things: grow and contribute.
Yep.
It doesn't grow, die. So I'm constantly, to your point earlier, you're constantly learning and growing. Otherwise, you're dying. So you want to always constantly learn and then improve other people's lives. So contribute to the world. So back to your question, if I had a blank check, I would basically open up studios and just have free classes for people, because I know how much the martial arts has done for me. I know how much for the last 30 plus years it's done for thousands of students of mine. And I know that if we had that opportunity.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. Thank you, Kyoshi and McCauley. For those that are in his area in New York, please do reach out to him. Go buy his book. He's an amazing guy. Like, we're best friends now. And we're going to keep on being best friends, and we're going to keep on growing and learning, because truly, like, I love what you said. Like, if you're not growing, you're dying. It is the biology of life. You're always growing. You're always dying. But the point is, what direction are you going in? Right? All right, folks, thank you so much for being here. This is Coach Raja. As always, don't fake it till you make it. Instead, believe it and become it. And we'll see you all on the next show. Thank you,
Thanks for having me.
for being here, and have a good time. Bye-bye. All right, hang on for 1 second here. All right, 3 quick questions and we're out of here. What was your favorite part about being on the show today?
I love just sharing my story with people, and
Mhm.
hopefully that, resonates with somebody. There's tons and tons of these available to everybody. So what you do, I think, is unique, because you tie it into self-improvement and, stepping out of your comfort zone. And I'm sure you bring on continuous guests to maybe raise the bar. So I think just being invited to do this, I thank you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. And what was your biggest takeaway or learning from the show today?
I think just realizing that everything we do in life is a building block.
Mm-hmm.
And even sometimes the junk that we have to get through molds us to be a better person. And
Right.
if, like, listening to your story, and I just can't imagine. I mean, I know what it was like going through my bullying challenges. Yours must have been tenfold.
It was pretty bad at times, but that's another story. Maybe I'll put that in the book.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, like, when I talk about my book is called Unbox Me Today. So it's not just a title, it's a call to action, right? So, and so I think a lot of people sometimes realize we get stuck, we get comfortable, we get stuck in this box of fear. So we want to get out of it. Sometimes we don't know, but getting uncomfortable is our growth zone. And only when you get past your uncomfortable zone, that's where your greatest successes lie. And just quick last question. Based on your experience here, would you recommend me to somebody else's show?
You sure? Absolutely.
All right. So podcast team knows what to do from here. We are clicking off here, and we are officially off. Thanks so much, everybody.